As most of you know, I absolutely freaking love the GameCube, and I also love first-person shooters, and the GameCube library actually has a decent number of first-person shooters, and I am going to go over 22 of them with you, 11 in today's video and the other 11 in a part 2. So let's get ready to talk about some first-person shooters that came out on the Nintendo GameCube and whether or not you should buy them. Before we get into today's video, I wanted to quickly tell you about a Kickstarter for a movie I will be heavily involved in if it is successfully funded. The movie is called Reset, and it is a feature-length science fiction film about transitioning into adulthood in near-future New York City, and it was written and will be directed by a large YouTuber named James Tyler, who you all may know by his YouTube channel Nerdstalgic. Tyler has a background in filmmaking, and this film is his dream, and he will be hiring a professional crew for the production of the movie. Now, there are many different pledge levels for you to back to support the movie, and there are a variety of rewards you will receive depending on your pledge, most of which include a copy of the movie upon release. So this is essentially a pre-order for the movie that will also help make it happen. Now, I believe in Tyler, aka Nerdstalgic, and his project, and I encourage you to go check out the Kickstarter, and if it looks interesting to you, please consider backing it, and if you back it, please share the Kickstarter on social media and with friends and family. I will leave a link to the Kickstarter and Tyler's YouTube channel, Nerdstalgic, in the description down below, so please go check those out. Let's make this movie happen, everybody. Thank you. Now back to the video. Now, before we get into the first game, I wanted to give you a quick disclaimer. There are 3 games on the GameCube that some people might consider to be first-person shooters that I'm not including in today's video or part 2. And those 3 games are Metroid Prime 2, and Killer 7. Metroid Prime and Metroid Prime 2 I don't consider to be true first-person shooters. They're first-person adventure games, right? Killer 7, yeah, I don't really consider that to be a first-person shooter either. The games I'm considering to be first-person shooters are more mission-based first-person shooters, more of your kind of traditional, you know, when you think of a first-person shooter, these are the games that come to mind. So that's what we're going over in today's video. So let's go ahead and hop right in. James Bond 007 Agent Under Fire was released on the GameCube in North America on March 12, 2002. Based off the James Bond franchise and using the likeness of Pierce Brosnan, Agent Under Fire is a pretty decent first-person shooter filled with all the over-the-top action set pieces and one-liners one would expect from a good James Bond game. The game features 12 different missions which range from all-out run-and-gun action to stealth and car-based missions. There is a multiplayer mode for up to 4 players with multiple modes and characters to choose from. Agent Under Fire currently has a Metacritic score of 74 out of 100 with 16 critic reviews and a user score of 6.7 out of 10 with 35 user ratings. Now, I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail about the game as a whole because it was actually featured in an episode of GameCube Gallery, so if you want to learn more, I'll leave a link to that video in the description down below. But I will say this, it is a solid first-person shooter and I think it's worth playing, so I recommend checking it out. James Bond 007 Nightfire was released on the GameCube in North America on November 18, 2002, the same year as Agent Under Fire, and that's because it is a sequel and developed by a different company. Also based on the James Bond series, and this time the in-game character of James Bond is not the likeness of Pierce Brosnan, it is Pierce Brosnan. Just like Agent Under Fire, it is full of over-the-top action set pieces and typical James Bond one-liners, but Nightfire is even more over-the-top and also a much better game than Agent Under Fire in my opinion. Nightfire features 12 missions, some of which are pretty damn long and elaborate, and it features a really fun multiplayer for up to 4 players with a ton of stages, modes, and characters. Nightfire is a far more polished game all around, especially in the controls department, and it currently has a Metacritic critic score of 80 out of 100 with 17 critic reviews and a user score of 8.5 out of 10 with 59 user ratings. And again, I'm not going to go into detail about Nightfire because it was featured in the same episode of GameCube Gallery as Agent Under Fire because I actually pit the 2 games together. Be sure and check that video out for more info on both games, link in the description below. Needless to say, I think it's one of the best first-person shooter games on the GameCube and a must-own if you collect for the console. Call of Duty Finest Hour was released on the GameCube in North America on November 16th, 2004. It takes place during World War II, and the cool thing is that you actually play 3 different campaigns of sorts, being the Soviets, the British, and the Americans, and there are 19 missions spread across 3 different storylines, making it a pretty massive game. Now, for some reason, the GameCube version of Finest Hour does not feature any multiplayer at all, but the Xbox and PS2 versions do, but it's online only. Call of Duty Finest Hour currently has a Metacritic score of 74 out of 100 with 31 critic reviews, and a user score of 8.6 out of 10 with 16 user ratings. I enjoyed the few missions I played in Call of Duty Finest Hour. The controls feel good, the game has an epic feel, and it's very intense and difficult. However, the one thing I did not like is that the game is very dark. So dark that it makes it difficult to actually play, which is frustrating. But again, this is a solid first-person shooter game, and I recommend it, especially if you like war games. Just get ready to turn that brightness setting up. Call of Duty 2 Big Red One was released on the GameCube in North America on November 1st, 2005. It takes place during World War II following a soldier named Roland Roger, and there are 12 long and epic missions to play through in the single player campaign. Now, just like with Finest Hour, Big Red One features no multiplayer on the GameCube version, while the PS2 and Xbox versions feature online multiplayer. Call of Duty 2 Big Red One currently has a Metacritic critic score of 76 out of 100 with 28 critic reviews, and a user score of 7.9 out of 10 with 16 user ratings. Big Red One plays and looks better than Finest Hour, but it's still a bit dark and hard to see at times, although I will admit it is a slight improvement over Finest Hour. But again, if you're looking for a solid war-themed first-person shooter to sink some time into, then Call of Duty 2 Big Red One is a solid choice and I recommend it. Die Hard Vendetta was released on the GameCube in North America on November 15th, 2002. Based on the Die Hard movie franchise and taking place after the first 3 films, but the game is considered non-canon, you take on the role of John McClane as his daughter is kidnapped by the nephew of Hans Gruber, and you set out to rescue her. Die Hard Vendetta does not have any multiplayer, but there are 12 levels in the single player campaign, and the game actually has a few cool gameplay mechanics where you can take enemies hostage, which changes the AI behavior of the other enemies, and there are some neat hostage situations the game throws at you, but that is where the good stuff stops, sadly. Die Hard Vendetta currently has a Metacritic critic score of 54 out of 100 with 23 critic reviews, and a user score of 7 out of 10 with 10 user ratings, which is kind of surprising. This is not a good first-person shooter. I wouldn't call it terrible, because you can play it and have some fun, but the game has very poor controls, the graphics are just downright bad, and it's just all around janky to play. And that's a shame too, because you would think that it wouldn't be hard to make a damn good Die Hard game, but it just didn't happen here, unfortunately. I can't in good conscience recommend Die Hard Vendetta because honestly, after a few missions, I was ready for it to end. The game is just not very fun. Geist was released on the GameCube in North America on August 15, 2005, and it was published and partially developed by Nintendo as a first-party exclusive. Geist is a very unique and original first-person shooter with puzzle and adventure elements in it as well. In Geist, you take on the role of John Ramey, who has had his spirit ejected from his body, and you set out to save your friend, get your body back, and stop the Volks Corporation's evil Project Z. In Geist, you are essentially a ghost, and you will use your ghostly powers to possess objects, animals, and people as you navigate and fight your way through each mission. There are 13 missions in the single-player adventure, most of which are pretty long, and there is a cool multiplayer mode with 3 unique game modes being Possession, Deathmatch, Capture the Host, and Hunt. Geist currently has a Metacritic critic score of 66 out of 100 with 43 critic reviews, and a user score of 8.1 out of 10 with 30 user ratings. Now, I absolutely love Geist, and it has become one of my favorite first-person shooter games on the GameCube. And I actually recently did an episode of GameCube Gallery on Geist and went into great detail about the game. Link in the description down below if you want to check that out. Needless to say, the unique mechanics of being a ghost and the possession mechanics are what makes Geist so damn cool, and I highly recommend checking it out. Goldeneye Rogue Agent was released on the GameCube in North America on November 22nd, 2004. You take on the role of an ex-MI6 agent recruited by a member of a crime organization named Ulrich Goldfinger, and tasked with assassinating his rival Dr. No, so you actually play as sort of an anti-hero slash bad guy. Now the funny thing is that even though this game is part of the James Bond franchise and is in that universe, it has no relation to the Goldeneye movie or video game, oddly enough. The name Goldeneye is because the protagonist loses one of his eyes and it is replaced by a gold robotic replacement. Goldeneye Rogue Agent only has 8 missions to play through, but they're all pretty long and definitely replayable. In the campaign, you can hold a weapon in each hand and mix and match weapons, and you can also pick up dropped enemy weapons. Your cybernetic eye has 4 abilities you unlock throughout the course of the game, such as the ability to see through walls, hack things, deflect bullets, and send enemies flying. There is split screen multiplayer with a variety of modes, characters, and maps, some of which you unlock by playing the story mode. Goldeneye Rogue Agent currently has a Metacritic critic score of 60 out of 100 with 35 critic reviews, and a user score of 6.8 out of 10 with 17 user ratings. So the reviews and reception were average, but I enjoy the game quite a bit. I think it's a fun first-person shooter with some cool ideas and gameplay mechanics, and it's very interesting playing a game in the Bond universe where you don't actually play as Bond. That's a nice twist on the formula. Also, the fact that the game is very action-packed and very much run and gun is a nice change of pace over the sometimes slower pace of the other Bond games. I think GoldenEye Rogue Agent is a solid first-person shooter, and I recommend checking it out. Judge Dredd: Dredd vs. Death was released on the GameCube in North America on March 3rd, 2005. It is based, of course, on the Judge Dredd character and universe and follows Judge Dredd as he sets out to stop the evil Dr. Icarus. The campaign takes place over the course of 11 levels that can be played single player or co-op, which is a nice touch, and it features a law meter and the ability to arrest people for committing crimes. Judge Dredd also features some other cool gameplay mechanics like your lawgiver gun having multiple ammo types to switch between. There is an arcade mode where you can take on a variety of challenges, more of which you unlock through playing single player, and it has a multiplayer mode with a ton of different modes and play options. This all sounds pretty damn cool, right? Well, unfortunately, the game is not very good. Judge Dredd: Dredd vs. Death currently has a Metacritic critic score of 56 out of 100 with 11 critic reviews, and the GameCube version didn't even have a user score on Metacritic, which is not a good sign. However, the Xbox and PS2 versions did have a user score, and it was in the 5 out of 10 range. The graphics were bad, the voice acting was bad, the gameplay and controls were bad, just all around not that great of a game, which is a shame because there really were some cool ideas here, but they failed to execute them properly in a cohesive and polished gameplay experience, and what we are left with is a mess that you should skip. I don't recommend this game. Now I'm going to lump Medal of Honor Frontline, Rising Sun, and European Assault together because they're all very similar games in the same franchise and they all play very similarly. Medal of Honor Frontline was released on the GameCube in North America on May 29, 2002. Rising Sun was released on November 11, 2003, and European Assault was released on July 7, 2005. All 3 of these Medal of Honor games feature large single-player campaigns that take place during World War II. Frontline's campaign features 19 epic missions, Rising Sun featured 9 missions, and European Assault featured 11 missions. Medal of Honor Rising Sun's campaign also featured 2-player co-op, but sadly the other 2 games did not for some reason, which I don't quite understand. All 3 games, however, feature really fun split-screen multiplayer for up to 4 players with a huge variety of modes to play. On Metacritic, the GameCube versions of the games received the following ratings. Frontline had a critic score of 80 out of 100 with 16 critic reviews and a user score of 7.6 out of 10 with 19 user ratings. Rising Sun has a critic score of 68 out of 100 with 24 critic reviews and a user score of 6.6 out of 10 with 17 user ratings. And European Assault has a critic score of 71 out of 100 with 22 critic reviews and a user score of 8 out of 10 with 16 user ratings. This makes Medal of Honor Frontline the highest rated game out of all 3. All 3 of the Medal of Honor games are quality war-based first-person shooters that have an epic feel, awesome presentation, and fun gameplay. Now, I personally think they're actually better than the Call of Duty games on the GameCube, especially due to the fact that the lighting is actually good and you can actually see what the hell you're doing while you're playing. So I recommend all 3 games. To sum up, out of these 11 games I've covered in today's video, here are the ones I recommend and think are worth playing. James Bond 007 Agent Under Fire, James Bond 007 Nightfire, Call of Duty Finest Hour, Call of Duty 2 Big Red One, Geist, Goldeneye Rogue Agent, Medal of Honor Frontline, Medal of Honor Rising Sun, and Medal of Honor European Assault. And here are the games out of the 11 I covered that I do not recommend playing, and those two games are Hard Vendetta and Judge Dredd Dredd vs. Death. I recommend staying far, far away from these two games unless you just want to punish yourself. Well, there you have it, folks. 11 of the 22 first-person shooters that came out on the GameCube and whether or not you should buy them. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. If you did, please be sure and smack that like button. It really helps out the channel and means a lot to me. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about any of the first-person shooters that I've gone over in today's video. Maybe you disagree with some of my opinions. Maybe you agree. Let me know all that in the comments down below. And if you're new here, consider subscribing so that you can join the Retro Wolf family. And stay tuned for part 2 where I go over the other 11 first-person shooters on the Nintendo GameCube. Until next time, folks, stay safe out there, keep playing games and having a good time, and I will see you all in the next video. Later.